I felt she deserved the right to regain her dignity and her place in history and in the world's memory. I hoped to help change her position as a victim to one where she can be seen in her entirety and complexity, said New York-based visual artist Laura Anderson Barbata as she prepared to make an imprint of a tombstone inside the municipal cemetery of a small agricultural town on Mexico's central Pacific coast, Sinaloa de Lera, on the 12th of February 2013. That particular tomb held the body, or should I say, the remnants of a human being who had died as many as 153 years back, around 1860, after a tragically short lifespan of just 26 years. Welcome to part 1 of a mind-boggling story of someone who had often been referred to by the world as the Bear Woman or the Baboon Lady, or more sadly, the ugliest woman in the world, Julia Pastrana. There are no birth, baptism or early records enabling a reconstruction of Julia Pastrana's formative years, but she was probably born in 1834 in the Sierra Madre region of Mexico. Julia, fully grown, stood just 4.5 feet tall. Imagine a baby girl born with hair all over her body and an unusually prominent dentition. Yes, she had 2 rare diseases, undiagnosed in her short lifetime. Generalized hypertrichosis, which covered her face and her body in thick hair, her ears and nose being unusually large, and gingival hyperplasia, which thickened her lips and gums, and they were so overgrown it looked as if she had a second set of teeth. When Julia Pastrana was born, her mother worried that her looks were the result of some supernatural interference. The local native tribes, referred commonly as root diggers, a group of American Indians described as a kind of primate caveman hybrid, often blamed the Nawali, a breed of shape-shifting werewolves, for stillbirths and unexplained deformities. After seeing her daughter for the first time, Julia's mother is said to have whispered their name. She fled her tribe, or was cast out not long after. 2 years later, Mexican herders searching for a missing cow found Julia and her mother hiding in a mountain cave. They took them to the nearest city, where Julia was placed in an orphanage. Sweet, intelligent, and almost totally covered in black hair, she quickly became a local celebrity, attracting human curiosity at various levels. After hearing of her unusual looks and charming disposition, Pedro Sanchez, the governor of the state of Sinaloa, adopted Julia to serve as a live-in amusement to his dinner guests and his maid. As her fate would have it, she was ill-treated as a mere trophy there, and she stayed with the governor until she was 20, when she decided to return to her own tribe. By that time, she had been taught to read and write by Sanchez's staff of private teachers, but unfortunately, she never completed that trip home. An American showman known as 𝐷 met her somewhere on her journey back to the mountains and cajoled her to take up a life on stage. In the mid-19th century, there was a growing business of trafficking unusual human bodies and traveling exhibitions displaying human oddities. These shows were referred to as freak shows. The American freak show business was booming in the mid-19th century. It was an industry that was profitable, competitive, and organized. Successful freaks who could capture the public's imagination were celebrities of the era. Under such circumstances, Julia Pastrana's life was about to change forever. Julia would go on to become one of the most famous human curiosities of the 19th century, variously known as the Ape Woman, the Bear Woman, or the Baboon Lady. New York City was central in this burgeoning business. 13 years before Pastrana arrived there, a showman, P.T. Barnum, had opened a new museum in Lower Manhattan that would revolutionize this industry. Barnum was a notorious embellisher and fraudster as well, and this new enterprise, the American Museum, was all about cruel entertainment. Pastrana traveled to the United States by way of New Orleans, according to a pamphlet, and by the time she arrived in New York, she had a manager named J.W. Beach. On December 27, 1854, an advertisement in the New York Times announced that the hybrid or semi-human Indian from Mexico was to appear at a Manhattan museum. She made her debut in December 1854 at the Gothic Hall on Broadway in New York City. She wore a red dress, sang Spanish folk tunes, and danced the Highland Fling. Huge appreciative crowds flocked to see her, although it wasn't really the singing and dancing they were after. They came to gawk at her hairy face and body, her jaw that jutted forward, her unusually large lips and her wide, flat nose. The crowds and showmen were mesmerized. According to one account, no one was more interested than Burnham, who sent an agent to see if she was in fact as frightful as she was said to be. This agent, Theodore Lent, outmaneuvered even Burnham. He was an ambitious, optimistic and rather unscrupulous businessman, salesman and auctioneer who occasionally dabbled in prostitution as well. Julia's luxuriant costumes and sprightly dances, however, did little to hide the sad truth. Her friends recalled that Julia spoke like a child and naively trusted almost anyone who behaved kindly towards her. Lonely and miserable, Julia wanted nothing more than to leave her cruelly glamorous life and return to Mexico. Theodore Lent, the cunning impresario and her new manager, knew he must take a bold step to secure his livelihood, as this girl was making good money for him. His greed for money propelled him to ask her to marry him. Knowing nothing of such real-world issues as love, Julia accepted his offer, probably in search of some solace and inner peace, and the duo got married sometime in 1855. There are several schools of thought regarding this not-so-natural marriage. While most believe this was just the right way Lent could closely regulate her social interactions and control the considerable profits she generated, some believe that Julia really had fallen in love with him, as he was the only man who ever came so close to her. And in a particular account, she is believed to have even said this with a bright smile: "He loves me for my own sake." Post-marriage, the cruelties grew further. Theodore Lent displayed his wife throughout Europe in performances where she sang, danced, submitted to examinations, and appeared at staged social functions. She went on tour in New York, Boston, and Baltimore and made her debut in London in July 1857 as the Wonder of the World. In England, where Julia ventured after successful tours of the Eastern US and Canada, this otherness continued to be a useful promotional strategy. A poster advertising Julia's show at London's Regent Gallery, where she appeared 3 times a day in 1857, portrayed her with exaggerated reddened lips and a large nose, much like contemporary racialized images of African Americans. Very soon though, Pastrana became pregnant. Perhaps Lent was now trying to have 2 freaks for the price of 1. Julia went into labor in Moscow on March 20, 1860, accompanied by 3 doctors. The difficult delivery, complicated by Julia's tiny stature, caused irreparable injuries to both the mother and the child. Wounded by the doctor's forceps, Julia developed peritonitis. The baby, Theodore Lent Jr., who was covered in black hair just like his mother, began to suffocate soon after birth, and despite the doctor's best efforts to revive him, he clung to life for just 35 hours after battling asphyxia. Julia died after 5 days due to severe postpartum complications on March 25th. Thus ended the sad and short life of one of the most intriguing women of all times. But did her miseries come to an end? If today's episode gave you chills and dreams, hold on to your breath, as in the next episode we will discuss what happened to her after her death, which is seemingly much more grotesque, odd and unnerving. Would Julia ever get her dues even after her death? Keep following this channel for the part 2 coming up next week. Share this story to everyone and subscribe to the channel for more such interesting content. Do not forget to press the bell icon. Thank you and God bless.